welcome back to the Freedom Corner podcast with the Mississippi Freedom Caucus. I'm your host, Stephen Utroska. Today, here again with Representative Dana Criswell, who is the vice chairman of the Mississippi Freedom Caucus. Dana, always glad to have you in the studio.
Well, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me back, Stephen.
Yep. All right. So we have almost down another week of the legislative session, mostly in committee meetings this week, looking at some of the Senate bills. The Senate bills have come over. You guys sent your bills over to the Senate, let them work on them. You guys got all the Senate bills now in the House, so you're looking through those, going through committee, talking about them. A lot of them look similar. I see a lot of companion bills or basically bills you guys have already looked at. But what's going on otherwise? What are you guys doing? Not a whole lot of floor action this week. I know that'll ramp up next week, but what kind of bills are we looking at this week in committee?
Well, there is a lot, and the deadline for us to handle any Senate bill is on Tuesday coming up. So we have had a lot of committee meetings. It's a strange process when you're new here because you expect more committee meetings, but they're all crammed into 1 week basically.
Right.
So we have to get them all out and get them on the calendar for the House. So Tuesday is the big deadline for that. And we also have different for appropriations for bills coming out of the House for appropriations. So that deadline's coming up. So we had a big appropriations meeting today where we appropriate and spend all your money.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, speaking of the appropriation bills, I forgot about that. So they did take up one really big one. It was a block vote of about 50 appropriation bills and, slam packed with a lot of agencies and organizations and this and that are not core functions of government. The majority of them are not core functions of government. That was taken up in a block vote. And that just means that they kind of, cram 50 appropriation bills together and say, everybody's going to vote on these anyways. We might as well just take one big vote for all of them. And it, pretty much passed seemingly with very few people voting against it, except for the Mississippi Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, the way this process works, again, anybody from the outside looking in could tell that it's just a ridiculous process. So we have all these bills that we spend money for every agency that's coming through, give pay raises and do all that. Well, they tell us, well, this doesn't matter because it's going to the Senate. We're going to put a reverse repealer, which means that if the Senate changes it, which they'll have to take that out, then it comes back to the House. So they tell you it doesn't matter. Oh, this is just a procedural vote. It doesn't matter how much money we put in here. It's going to come back and we'll work it out in conference. So everybody takes that to mean, oh, just vote yes. Yeah. Just it doesn't matter. And those of us in the Freedom Caucus have kind of rebelled against that whole process of just vote yes, don't think, just vote for it and let 6 people in a conference decide.
Right.
Well, we just think that's a bad process.
Yeah.
We were elected to make these decisions and understand what's going on. So we don't vote for these block votes. I mean, so I'm not going to vote for giving money away that I don't think I should just because they stick it in with another bill that's a core function of government.
Yeah.
So we've tried pulling some of those out. We've tried different methods. We tried pulling some of them out so then we can vote yes for some of those. We've tried voting no on the entire block just because it's going to all come back to us.
Right.
We're just basically protesting this process that hides things from people.
Yeah. And so anybody that knows, at least some things about the process, the way it works, there's about 15 steps, right? These bills have to go through all these steps. Each one of these steps for a good bill is a hurdle to get passed, to try to get it, eventually passed by both chambers. It's also a next, opportunity to try to kill a bad bill. So there's all these steps they have to go through. But what they do with these is they put reverse repealers in them. Sometimes they don't even have language in them. It's just the current code. They haven't even changed anything. They say, well, we just got to pass this, keep it along so we can keep working on it. Well, basically what they're doing is they're trying to skip all these steps so that they can get to the very last step before they actually change anything or do anything about it or take out the reverse repealer to pass it finally. And they say, oh, yeah, just procedural vote. Just vote for it. Don't worry about it. So that way they can get to the very end. So there's no controversy whatsoever for any of these bills until they get to the very end, and then it's too late.
Because when a conference report comes back, you can't amend a conference report.
Right.
You can't amend it on the floor. You've got to vote it up or down, and that's it. So if you kind of like it, but there's a few things you don't like, then when it gets to that final little conference report, you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
And that's what the leadership is all trying to force everybody in this position,
Right.
where you can't say anything, you can't speak up, you can't vote no. Their theory is you can't vote no.
Yep.
And it takes everybody, it takes all of us who are elected to fight for the people out of the process.
Yep.
You know, one of the things people may not understand is a reverse repealer. When I got here, I used to think that's just the dumbest thing ever. Is it says the bill goes into effect on July 1, but it repeals on June 30th. And you look at that and it's like, there's nobody dumber than government that would do that.
Yep.
And the whole point of that is that then it has to be changed. So when
Right.
we send it to the Senate, in order for them to allow the bill to go on to the governor, they have to change it. Well, if they change it, it has to come back to the House. So it's kind of one of those stop gaps that it's not necessarily a bad process, but it's used as a cure-all. Oh, you can vote for it. It's got a reverse
Yep,
repealer.
that's right.
Don't worry about it.
Yep. So outside appropriations, we've been looking at a lot of bills coming from the Senate, and there's at least one bill in particular that is hitting you and a couple other of the DeSoto members in the caucus, kind of hitting you hard at home. And so it was a bill that was introduced or authored by and then introduced on the floor of the Senate by David Parker. But it kind of creates a commission of unelected bureaucrats that are appointed by the mayors of the county of DeSoto, and it only includes DeSoto County. But then it's kind of an interstate compact between some counties in Arkansas, counties in Tennessee. But it's got a lot of bad things in it. So let's talk about that. What exactly does it have in the bill that are our concerns, or we should be concerned about, or especially people of DeSoto County should be concerned about?
Well, it's Senate Bill 2716, and it creates this entity. It actually says in the bill a quasi-government entity, and it's named Region Smart Interstate Compact. So the whole idea behind it is supposed to be we can all come together with the counties or the DeSoto County delegation and everybody from Mississippi, Memphis and Shelby County, and some counties and cities in Arkansas. And they say, we're all going to come together. We're going to pool our money. We're going to hire this company to go to Washington, D.C. and beg for more money.
Right.
Well, so what they do in order to do this is each mayor gets an appointment, mayor of Olive Branch, Horn Lake. They appoint somebody to this board. Mayors in Shelby County and Memphis, they appoint somebody and all that. So now then you've got this big board that are making decisions for the people of DeSoto County that were not elected by the people from DeSoto County.
Yep.
And if you read through the bill, it allows them to impose fees. Well, you and I know that a fee is just the Republican name for a tax.
That's right. Yeah.
If a Republican wants to pass a tax, but I can't pass a tax, they call it a fee. So it allows them to impose fees. So now then you've got people from Tennessee and Arkansas imposing fees on people from Mississippi. And that's not even the worst one. The worst is, or it gets worse as we go, I guess, is they bond money. So they borrow money. And our question has been, who is responsible for this debt? Who's liable now
Right.
then? And nobody can give us an answer. We say, is it this Region Smart Compact? But what happens if they go away?
Right.
Who then is responsible? So again, we've got the people of Mississippi, not just DeSoto County. Now then we're including the whole people of Mississippi are going to be held liable for this bond that we did to build something in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me how
it was
this
decided
works.
by unelected bureaucrats.
Right. So it just gets worse the deeper we get in. And then the final straw is the eminent domain. So now then we have this board of unelected people, more than half of them from Tennessee and Arkansas, who can take property in Mississippi. Well, I mean, like I say, it just gets worse and worse and worse the more we read it.
Yes.
So we have fought this very hard. The Freedom Caucus has it, especially those of us from DeSoto County.
Yeah.
It's got to stop.
And Mississippians, back whenever it was 10 years ago, we passed some, a constitutional amendment through ballot initiative process for eminent domain protection, which that's only for, them taking property for the use of private use for companies and things like that. But it just showed Mississippians are very cognizant about eminent domain and people not taking their property. And I don't blame them. I don't want somebody coming and taking my house either. I've got a friend that actually lives in Flowood. His grandmother, they came in and took half the neighborhood because they're putting in a new road. Took half the neighborhood, made them, sell their houses, move out of it. And that's probably 15 years ago. And basically just put a gate up at the neighborhood so you can't get in it anymore. And they still sit there. The road's never been built. It's never been, nothing's ever been done. They pushed them all out of their houses, made them move, and then they blocked off the road. And 15 years later, they've never done anything with it. So, to use eminent domain, even for infrastructure, is very much towing that line of liberty. Even if you believe that the roads and infrastructure are a core function of government, they should be done very decidedly and not by unelected bureaucrats who are in a commission, of multiple states,
right?
Trying to do this. And so I'm very leery of that. And so I did mention, David Parker introduced this bill. He not only authored it along with the two other DeSoto County senators, but he actually presented it on the floor. And I went back, now the great thing about COVID is now all floor actions in both chambers are recorded and are live streamed and recorded on YouTube. It's very easy to go back and look. So, of course, I went back and looked on February 3rd when this bill passed on the floor of the Senate. And at about the 30-minute mark on that day is when David Parker starts to talk about this bill before the bill's passage. And he gives about a 3 or 4 minute explanation of the bill. And not once does he mention anything about, being able to tax or implement fees. And never once does he say anything about issuing bonds. Never once does he talk about eminent domain. So the three worst provisions of this bill, he doesn't mention at all on the floor. The other thing about it is you mentioned even in the legislation itself, the bill says a quasi-governmental organization. So we both know what that means. What that means is they skirt open meeting laws. They skirt, FOIA request laws, transparency laws, because they're not really a governmental organization. They're kind of like quasi.
And it's going to be located in Memphis. So none of our Mississippi laws would apply at all, even if we could find a way to call it something else. This organization, this Region Smart, is going to be headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, and we all know how honest the politicians are in Memphis, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's just a bad bill all the way around. I can't believe that it passed the Senate. But again, if you watch the video of David Parker introducing it on the floor before the vote, he didn't go into depth about it. There weren't a whole lot of questions because everybody just thought, oh, this is just some kind of resolution where we're doing interstate compact. Yeah, sure. We'll go into a resolution, just agree to kind of do trade with these people so that maybe we can get some federal funds or whatever. But all the worst provisions of it weren't mentioned at all in the Senate.
Right. And I think I've heard that farmers are getting upset about this. They're the largest landholders around. Right. So eminent domain is going to affect them the most. And not only that are they the largest landholders, they make their living off their land.
Right.
So when the government comes in and some board member in Tennessee decides they want that property, now then not only are they taking his property, they're taking how he makes his living and how he probably plans on his kids making their living.
Right.
So it's very important to them. And I've heard that they've found out about this and they're starting to get a little upset.
Yeah, well, they need to. Not only the farmers. I mean, I 100% agree with you. And a lot of their lands that they have are multi-generational lands. They've had these for, generations and generations of their families have been farmers. And so they've been using this land. So they don't want to just give up their family land, especially if it's going to cut they're in the middle of their crop land. And now they're trying to, cross a major highway to be able to, farm. But, everybody in DeSoto County should be upset about this, and everybody in Mississippi should be upset about this because, like you said, now we're going to be on the hook. The entire state's going to be on the hook for not only something that DeSoto County is doing or the mayors there are, appointing people to do, but also people in Tennessee and Arkansas that are planning on what they want to do to Mississippi and what could put us on the hook for bonding or paying off these debts if it goes defunct.
Right. The good news is we've slowed it down. We may not have killed it yet, but we are working on it. We've at least slowed it down. And we have at least a little bit of time now then to actually just kill this thing.
Right. Yeah. And so I hope we can do that. I think anybody that's listening that wants to aid in doing that, they should reach out to the speaker, let him know that this is a bad bill, let him know that this is not something that a conservative should be pushing or allowing to go through, something where a non-governmental organization can come and take your property or charge you fees or taxes, or skirt open transparency laws. So reach out to the speaker, but also reach out. So it's going, the committee chairman is Donnie Bell, who is, who will be seemingly introducing this on the floor when it comes up for a vote, because it has passed committee in the House already.
It has.
And so it's on the calendar to come up for a vote probably next week sometime. So we've got to get to it before then. People have to reach out. People of DeSoto County especially need to reach out and show their displeasure with this. But then anyone else in Mississippi should be upset over this. So we've got to stop this bill now. So outside of that, what else we got going on?
Another thing I wanted to talk about is the pill press bill. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
House Bill 679. Now then we've got a Senate bill that comes over. It's Senate Bill 2563. I've had people ask me, why do you care about a pill press? But it's just the little things. It seems like a little fight. But if today you as a citizen, my wife makes little pills out of essential oils and things like that. If today you can buy a pill press on Amazon, all of a sudden tomorrow we're going to say you're a felon if you don't report it to the state of Mississippi. Now, where do you report it? How do you report it? That's your problem. You report it to they want it now then reported to the Bureau of Narcotics. And how? Well, that's actually up to you to figure out.
Yeah.
It seems little a pill press. And I know that we want to stop these drug lords or drug dealers from out here pressing pills, but it's already illegal to have all the narcotics.
Right.
So our fix to this has been to say, if you're using it to make an illegal substance, then okay, now then arrest them.
Yeah.
Not only for the illegal substance, arrest them for making the pill, but all the people out here who use homeopathic methods and they like to press pills, they shouldn't be a felon,
Right.
and they shouldn't be required to have to do this and report it as if they're are a felon.
Right.
So, it seems like a little fight, but I think it's a little fight that's worth fighting. We're going to still keep pushing to make sure that the Senate bill doesn't add anything, and we still have the exemption so that the average person is not a felon because they happen to order one off of Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Now I've heard the rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, if there's any backing, but I've heard, that everybody commits a felony, 2 to 3 times a day. You commit a felony. We've got over 117,000 state regulations on the books. That doesn't include federal regulations. That's just in the state of Mississippi, that's been passed by our legislature throughout the years, 117,000. And so how do you expect somebody that's just a regular, everyday citizen that, gets up in the morning, drinks their coffee, goes to work, spends time with their family, and they're making homeopathic vitamins or nutrients or whatever, using this pill press? How are they supposed to know that the state of Mississippi just passed a bill that will now require them to either register it or become a felon and face up to 5 years in prison?
Right. And the other question I ask is, how long do you have to register it? Well, if I order the thing from Amazon, it comes to my post office box. Now then, I have it in my car and I'm stopped for speeding. The cop sees it in the back. Are they going to take my car because I have drug paraphernalia? Because how long do I have to register that thing? 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 days? How do you know when you picked it up? It's just one of these things that gets deeper and deeper and dumber as you go. And the citizens have to be protected from this. Not that we want to encourage drug dealers, but the citizens can't be made into a felon just for doing something that's not illegal.
Yeah. Well, and so back over the summer, there was some committee discussions about this bill and some other bills in Judd B. They had a committee hearing over the summer, and I was actually in there and I testified on a separate bill, but Bureau of Narcotics had just gone right before me. And they were talking about these pill presses and saying, they basically said in this committee hearing that if they find people with pill presses, they're taking them. And so when I got up, I talked on the other bill. And then before I closed, I kind of asked, I said, now I just want to address something. Like the Bureau of Narcotics just went and said they're taking these from people, but they're not illegal. So why are they taking these from people? And now if they're arresting them, they have drugs on them or something, and they're arresting them, they take for paraphernalia, that's one thing. But if they're just pulling people over and they're already taking these from people, but not arresting them, not charging them with any crime, and they're just, taking stuff, people's legal products from them, then, what are they doing? How are they doing that? And I basically asked that, why is the legislature allowing them to take a legal product from somebody? So now they're coming back. They're trying to make it illegal now so that they can justify them taking, legal products from people. But it's, again, I understand what the point of it is, but if they have a point to make sure that we're taking drug dealers off the street, they need to make sure the collateral damage in that is not making, soccer moms who are making, homeopathic remedies felons.
Right. And our laws need to be very clear of what we're trying to do and not leave it up to interpretation by some individuals, because we're supposed to be a nation of laws, not a nation of men.
Right.
So it's the law that has to be very clear. And that's what we're fighting for. And that's why I think it's important, although it seems small sometimes in the big scale of things, but some of these little battles become very important in that we're very intent on making sure our laws are very specific so that citizens are protected.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, Representative Criswell, thank you again for coming on. We certainly are proud of the work that you're doing and the entire Mississippi Freedom Caucus. You guys keep fighting, keep up the sometimes long and strenuous battle that you guys have over there. But thank you for coming in again. Thank you for everyone that's watching. Again, we try to do these every Thursday. We're getting to where we kind of know a schedule a little bit better, so we'll try to get it out, somewhere around 3:00 every Thursday. But again, I'll end it with the way I always do and saying, this is the Mississippi Freedom Caucus's Freedom Corner podcast, and there's no one else I would rather have fighting in my corner than you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.